Friday, 5 p.m. Jerusalem time. From NBC Studios, this is NBC Journal with Bassam Zahir and Sana Abu Samra.
66 others injured in Gaza's Great March of Term protests.
Palestinian political prisoners in Israel call off hunger strike after reaching agreement.
Co-founder of BDS says US entry ban politically motivated.
Hello and welcome again. A Palestinian miner was killed and at least 66 others were shot and injured with live ammunition, while dozens others suffocated by tear gas as Israeli occupation forces attacked peaceful rallies held at Gaza-Israeli border as part of the Great March of Return protest, according to medical sources. Israeli occupation forces stationed along the barbed wire fence between Gaza and Israel to the east of the Gaza Strip opened fire toward dozens of demonstrators who gathered near the fence to take part in the Great March of Return protest, killing 15-year-old Musa Abu Shalouf and shooting and injuring at least 66 others, including 4 seriously.
A Palestinian youth was shot and injured by Israeli policemen near Beit Ainun Junction to the northeast of Hebron in the occupied West Bank, according to local sources. Hussein Ayed Fanous, 26, was moved to hospital with a moderate gunshot injury in the face, and there were no further details about the reason behind the shooting.
A Palestinian fisherman was injured on Sunday morning after he was shot by Israeli naval boats while he was sailing off the shore of Gaza City. Israeli Navy opened live gunfire at the boat, injuring the fisherman, who was not yet identified, in the neck and back. He was evacuated into Shifa Hospital in Gaza for medical treatment, where his condition was described as moderate. According to the United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs, Israel's blockade of the coastal enclave has seriously undermined the ability of Gazans fishermen to make a living at sea. The Israeli army regularly detains and opens fire on unarmed Palestinian fishermen, shepherds, and farmers along the borders areas if they approach the unilaterally declared buffer zone.
Several hundred Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli jails called off their week-long hunger strike after reaching an agreement with the Israel Prison Service, according to the Palestinian Detainees and Ex-Detainees Commission. Commission spokesman Majdi Adra said that after days of negotiations between representatives of the prisoners in Ramon prison in the south of Israel and the IPS, it was agreed that public phones will be installed in the prisons for prisoners to use 3 days a week. In addition, the IPS agreed that all prisoners moved from the Naqab prison, also in the south following the recent unrest in the prison, will be returned to their cells, and fines imposed on the prisoners involved in the unrest will be cut by almost half. One point of strong contention that was the cause for the rebellion in the Naqab and Ramon prisoners, the installation of jamming devices, has been deferred to until after the public phones are installed. As a result of this development, said Adra, the prisoners declared an end to all their protest measures.
The new 18th Palestinian government, headed by Mohammed Shtayyeh, was sworn in Ramallah in front of President Mahmoud Abbas. While most of the 22 members of the government are new, the key ministries, such as the finance and foreign ministries, remain in the hands of the incumbents. President Abbas asked Fatah Central Committee member Mohammed Shtayyeh to form the new Palestinian government on March 10th to replace the government of Rami Hamdallah, which was rendered its resignation on January 29th after 4 years in office. The president said then that the mission of the new government will be to speed up reuniting the West Bank and Gaza Strip, as well as to working to holding legislative elections in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip to strengthen democracy. Shtayyeh was born in the village of Tel near Nablus in 1958 and got his undergraduate degree at Birzeit University and his doctorate degree in economics from University of Sussex in the United Kingdom.
Dozens of Palestinian students and teachers on Monday morning suffocated from tear gas canisters fired by Israeli occupation forces around and inside several schools in the southern West Bank city of Hebron. Local sources said that Israeli occupation forces intensively fired sound and tear gas bombs in the vicinity of several schools and inside the school compounds as students were standing in queue during the morning assembly, causing dozens of students and teachers to suffocate from excessive tear gas inhalation and spreading panic among them. All casualties received treatment at the scene. The targeted schools were identified as Hebron Boys Elementary School, Khadija bin Khuwailid's Girls Elementary School, the Nourain Boys School and Al Hajiyya Girls School and Tariq bin Ziyad Boys School.
Thanks to a generous donation of $23 million from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through the Saudi Fund for Development, the United Nations Relief Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East will embark on a large-scale maintenance project that will ensure that 268 schools and health centers in Syria, Jordan, Gaza, Lebanon, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, have sound construction and are accessible to all visitors, according to a press release by the UN agency. We are extremely grateful that the SFD has made this support available, as many of our structures needed maintenance, said UNRWA. Commissioner General Pierre Cranbeau, going to a well-kept school for health center can make a huge difference in terms of respect and morale, and that is exactly what we want people to feel. We care about your dignity.
Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki expected the American so-called deal of the century to bring with it bad news when it is introduced by the US as an official document for Middle East peace. Speaking at the 5th Russia-Arab Cooperation Forum held in Moscow, Maliki warned that the coming days and months will bring us bad news with the so-called deal of the century, which started with turning Jerusalem over to Israel and seems going to end with recognition of Israeli sovereignty over large areas of the occupied West Bank, as demanded by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He said the US administration of President Donald Trump has exerted enormous pressure on the Palestinian people and its leadership and took decisions in support of the Israeli occupation.
Amnesty International described Airbnb reversal on a ban on illegal Israeli settlements listing as reprehensible, cowardly and shameful. Mark Dumat, Amnesty International's business and human rights researcher, said in response to Airbnb's announcement that they will no longer be removing all listings in illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank following a class action lawsuit by Israeli lawyers, that Airbnb decisions to continue to allow accommodations listing in the illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank as a reprehensible and cowardly move that will be another devastating blow for the human rights of Palestinians. He said that this decision is a deeply shameful abdication of Airbnb's responsibility as a company to respect international humanitarian and human rights law wherever they operate in the world. This includes Israel's illegal settlements on occupied Palestinian territories. It also exposes the hollowness of their claims to be a company that values human rights.
Palestine has gained full membership in the Vienna Convention for the Protection of the Ozone Layer and the Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete the Ozone Layer, which sits under the Vienna Convention, the Environmental Quality Authority. It said the approval of the agreement came after Palestine's accession to the United Nations Agency on 18 March 2019. The Environmental Authority said in a statement that it was ready and prepared to follow on the obligations of joining the organization on the legal and technical levels in the state of Palestine, and that it will work with the United Nations Environment Programme to create a national ozone unit responsible for following up on all projects and the obligations set by the convention.
Adala, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights in Israel, sent an urgent letter to senior Israeli legal officials on calling for a criminal investigation into the Likud party's planting of thousands of hidden cameras in Israeli polling stations. Multiple media reports indicated that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Likud party, the apparent elections victors, deployed party activists, which has many as 1,200 hidden cameras to polling stations in Arab communities during Tuesday's national parliamentary election. Numerous videos from polling stations in Arab communities across Israel testify to harm to voters and disturbance of the voting process as a result of the cameras.
The World Health Organization called for the protection of health workers and health facilities in the Gaza Strip following a rise in the number of health workers killed or injured and facilities damaged by Israeli army gunfire. WHO said in a press statement that it has recorded an unprecedented 446 attacks on healthcare in Gaza since the start of the Great March of Return on the 30th of March 2018. These attacks have resulted in 3 deaths and 731 injuries among health workers. 104 ambulances and 6 other forms of health transport have been damaged, in addition to 5 health facilities and 1 hospital, it said. In addition to personal risk and damage to healthcare, health workers also face substantial barriers to carrying out their work. Firing between health workers and those injured prevents or hampers access, and witnessing such events has significant implications for longer-term mental health and continued work, said WHO.
Omar Barghouti, a Palestinian human rights defender and a co-founder of the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Movement for Palestinian Rights, said a U.S. ban on his entry into the United States is ideologically and politically motivated. Barghouti was told at Israel's Ben Gurion airport on Wednesday as he was getting ready to travel to the U.S. on a speaking tour and to attend his daughter's wedding that he has been denied entry in the United States despite having a valid travel document. This U.S. entry ban against me, which is ideologically and politically motivated, is a part of Israel escalating repression against Palestinians, Israeli and international human rights defender in the BDS movement for freedom, justice and equality, he said. Israel is not merely continuing its decade-old system of military occupation, apartheid and ethnic cleansing. It is increasingly outsourcing its outrageous McCarthy repression to the U.S. and its xenophobic far-right cohorts across the world. The ban also denied the BDS co-founder the right to attend his daughter's wedding.
Israeli settlers spray-painted racist graffiti on homes and several vehicles in the village of Ain Yabrud, east of the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah. Settlers sneaked into the village in the pre-dawn hours and spray-painted anti-Palestinian and anti-Arab slogans on homes and vehicles before leaving the area. Settlers occasionally raid the village and cause damages to local property.
King Abdullah II of Jordan and Italian President Sergio Mattarella affirmed their country's unified position on the peace process and the two-state solution during a meeting held at Al Husseina Palace in Jordan. King Abdullah stressed the need to intensify efforts in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on the two-state solution, leading to an establishment of an independent Palestinian state within 1967 borders and East Jerusalem as its capital, stressing the importance of the European Union role in this regard. We share strong views on the hope for Jerusalem being a city that unifies all people, said King Abdullah. He stressed the need to preserve the legal and historical status quo in Jerusalem, stressing that Jordan will continue to uphold its role in safeguarding Islamic and Christian holy sites in accordance with the Hashemite custodianship. For his part, President Mattarella stressed Italy's support for the Hashemite custodianship of Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem.
Palestine assumed the chairmanship of the Nairobi branch of the group of 77 plus China, taking over the post from the Ethiopian ambassador. The handover of power ceremony was held at the United Nations headquarters in Kenya in the presence of the members of the group. Palestine's nomination to chair the Nairobi branch was supported by the Asia and Pacific Ocean Group. Palestine became chair of the group of 77 plus China at the UN at the start of this year.
Mohammed Deeb Safi, 27 from Beit Lahia, north of the Gaza Strip, could barely see in one eye when he was summoned to appear at a Hamas interrogation center for the 5th time in 2 months. When he left the center, he had lost sight in both eyes. Safi was active in We Want to Live movement in the Gaza that demanded better life conditions in the besieged Gaza Strip. Movement activities that included protests in several parts of the Gaza Strip were brutally suppressed by Hamas armed groups and its leaders, and activists were detained and tortured. Safi is currently at Shifa Hospital in Gaza awaiting an opportunity to travel to a specialized hospital out of the Gaza for treatment in his eye.
And now moving to An-Najah National University News. Nilesat's team is qualified to participate in the Holt Prize Global Stage. An-Najah Nilesat's team, represented by 4 students, namely Ghaith Khanfar, Tariq Hamayel, Afaf Nasser and Lara Sboube, has been chosen to showcase their project on Friday, April the 12th, 2019 in Melbourne, Australia. Nilesat is a pilot project on a smart mobile device application that monitors the psychological behavior of users. An-Najah team will compete on the global stage at one of the 25 regional final rounds across the world for the chance to join the Summer Holt Prize Accelerator at the Castle. It is worth mentioning that An-Najah team has recently won first place at the Holt Prize University level.
Arab Week Palestine team wins 2 awards at Arab Week Conference. Dr. Mona Nabil Dmedi and Miss Yamama Shak'a from the Facility of Engineering and IT and Miss Ruba Awais from the Facility of Science represented An-Najah National University at the 6th Annual International Conference for Arab Women in Computing, which was held in Rabat, Morocco during the period from March 6 to March 10, 2019. Dr. Mehdi exhibited her research paper titled A Method for Evaluating Domain Ontologies, which is to be published by ACM. International Conference proceeding. Ms. Shak'a also gave a workshop on international virtual reality, as well as others lectures on different topics.
These are the news of the week. Thank you for watching. For more details, visit our website, nn.ps.
See you next Friday.